Hi, this is Sarah. Thanks for listening to my show, Meant for More Conversations with Sarah Ali Moore, where we explore our greatest potential, the call to serve, and leading heart-centered change with full authenticity. Hi, friends. How's it going? Happy Tuesday. It's almost Christmas time, almost Christmas Eve. I am so extremely excited for the holidays coming up. How many of you are going out of town? How many of you have family coming into town? Are you ready? Do you have presents wrapped? Are you prepared for the holidays coming up? I will be honest and say that I am not quite prepared, but you know, there's still a couple days left, you know, so that's the good news. We still have a little bit of time. I'm really excited. I have my fellow TEDx Cherry Creek women speaker friend, Sonia Chavez, who is speaking with me tonight about the subject of being a rebel leader. What is it, this revolution that she is starting? I'm really excited to talk about this topic, especially in this time right now of change and transformation. And this is going to be a conversation that I just know is going to be around and centered around transformation, and the good kind of transformation that we all need. Sonia is the founder of Looking to Leap, which has been going on, my gosh, we're on our 2-year anniversary and doing some really great work, working with all sorts of different diverse communities and spreading this revolution nationwide across the country. I'm really excited to talk to her tonight. So if you will help me welcome Sonia Chavez. Welcome, Sonia. How are you tonight?
I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, the week's just started, but we have downtime coming up, which I'm looking forward to. Are you ready for the holidays? How are you sitting?
I am. I was very much like, I wasn't for me, I wasn't taking vacation or anything like that because I'm going to stay here. And I'm realizing that the holiday bug is starting to creep in where I'm like, why am I working? Why am I coaching tomorrow? But all is good. All is good.
It's, you know, time doesn't stop when when leadership calls, you know, it doesn't matter what's going on holidays, no holidays. So that makes perfect sense. How are you settling after the TEDx experience? How does that feel coming through that?
I think to a small degree, there's still a little bit of like disbelief almost.
Yeah.
But what I will say is I've loved just sharing all the talks since and getting to rewatch them all, and hitting on the messages of all the speakers. And honestly, like how our group still connects in our WhatsApp group has been really, really cool. So I'm enjoying that process more than anything. And then I notice like some days it's just really cool to be like, I'm a TEDx speaker and just like that. So that's fun.
Yeah, right? It's that is pretty fun actually. Yeah, that's great. So Sonia, I just have to say, so for those of you who don't know, if you haven't had a chance to watch Sonia's talk, please do. The link is on my page, as well as is in the description area of this conversation tonight, of this live video. Definitely watch her talk. It is filled with some great, awesome information and some tips, some tools to carry with you on becoming and being a rebel leader and bringing forward your authentic leadership. But Sonia, I have to say that you like exemplified the message that you brought forward, you know, in the midst of this TEDx experience. So Sonia was not able to join us in person for the actual event because we are in the middle of a pandemic, and Sonia, keeping us safe, was exposed, and yeah, there was other arrangements had to be made for you to be a part of this event. And the entire time, I just have to say that you were such a class act, keeping us safe, staying in communication, being so supportive. I mean, you carried that leadership forward. So I just wanna one, just bow to you for that. And just say that, like, you were very present the entire time. I know that I was, and there was conversations around, like, you know, you're part of us, you're there. So I just want you to definitely know that. And yeah, it was just amazing to watch that. And I want to share that with you. So now this subject, can you tell me what's the inspiration behind this? How did this birth forward rebel leadership?
Yeah, and I want to point out that, you know, just exactly on the comment that you made about, you know, a situation came up where I was exposed. And I think when people hear rebel leader, that their assumption would be that a rebel leader would show up anyways and,
Right.
you know, not do the mission. And I think where people get it wrong is that rebel leadership is not selfish. Not the one, leadership in general is not selfish, and neither is
Right.
rebel leadership. That it's actually about making the hard decision and about going against what either yourself may think or want, or others may think or want for the greater good. That's truly what rebel leadership is about. It's always thinking about the evolution and the transformation of the greater good. So it's a very selfless version of leadership, yet people hear rebel and they instantly think like, oh, you're gonna like go do the bad thing. And
Right.
like, no, I'm gonna go do the super good thing that's harder for me to do. So I just wanted to point that out. But as far as like the journey of where rebel leadership even came up, was honestly like finding the connection of why I grew up feeling like no matter how much love and community I had around me, I still always felt different and like I never belonged. I always felt other. And attending a leadership program that I went to that was like a very intense 10-month experiential leadership program with 24 other people, I finally had the opportunity to realize that my purpose in life was actually to not belong, that it was in the not belonging that gave me the perspective I was able to have that allowed me to be the voice that was needed in the space in ways that no one else could do. And so it came about probably like I had already left my career. I had taken the leap to be an entrepreneur, to start my own business. And I was really trying to figure out like, what am I doing? How nothing felt, I knew where I wanted to go. I just didn't understand how everything connected together. And I started to really look at like my life patterns, my life track, from childhood, feeling like I didn't belong. I was adopted, right? So it just contributed to that story. And then, you know, in every space, I never had problems making friends or connecting or whatever, but like I was always trying to fit in and I was always trying to be what others wanted me to be. And so I would mute my voice a lot and I would agree and say what others wanted to hear, knowing that I felt something very different inside. And it wasn't until I started to actually let that voice come out that I realized that that's actually where the impact was happening. And that the more that I stepped into my natural way of being and not worrying about whether people were going to judge me or not like what I said, or if I was going to hurt someone's feelings, or if it was unprofessional. I worked in a military government environment, so it is not the most progressive space in the world. And I wore my LGBTQ flag loud and proud. And I got louder with my physical appearance as I got more secure in who I was. And what was missing was the confidence and the understanding of the value I was bringing into the spaces. And once I connected that I wasn't coming in to just surprise people or to just make people uncomfortable. I was coming in to actually provide a perspective and an opportunity that others just weren't seeing. And when I leaned into that space and I owned not belonging and I stopped being a victim to it, I had amazing results in how I could connect with people, how I could show up as a leader in all the things I was doing in my career. And my personal life, it shifted in my personal life too, because I was showing up the same way. And I was practicing this across. Like, I'm someone who doesn't show up at a job and then take the hat off and be something different. Like, how I show up now is how I show up everywhere. That's my goal, is to show not be different pieces of myself, but to bring everything in. And the more I leaned into that, the more it became true. And then I actually created a pilot called REBELUTION of a program before I left my last job. And it was amazing to me because there was a lot of military members who were really intrigued with it because they felt so barred and chained down and so boxed in. Mm-hmm. And they just wanted a way to explore what's possible. And what does it mean to be me? And is it okay to be unique? That being unique doesn't mean that you're selfish. That being unique can actually mean that you're one of the pieces of the puzzle that's going to bring, the whole picture together.
Right.
Yeah.
To that point, I mean, that's interesting because, when you're talking about doing a training like this with, people who are working in the military or in government or these structured environments and being like, oh gosh, like I can show up, as my, with my uniqueness and authenticity, which is really like the thread of so much of your message, this part about authenticity. And so, how, there's one way of for the individual being able to give themselves the permission, right, mm-hmm. of showing up authentically. But there is also in these structured spaces or these spaces that maybe feel structured, like what is the work that we can do, or what is the shift that can be made that we can bring the authenticity forward, or that we can cultivate authenticity in these structured spaces?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think part of it is opening up the perspective that you can hold many dynamics at one time, mm-hmm. that one thing does not need to eliminate another, right? So when I was working in spaces with military, and I understood what it was like because I was in the military. So I remembered what it was like when I was in that time and how I felt I needed to belong. And there are a lot of rules and regulations about all around. Yes. And I was never trying to talk them out of being in the military or that their path was wrong, that there was anything wrong with the path that they had chosen. It was more of what's the opportunity and the space in that path. And trying to I think the first stepping stone is actually seeing what is possible. So we spend so much time focused on what we can't do, what is limiting us, what is boxing us in, what's not possible. But if we just allow ourselves some space to look at, in this box, what's the space there? And how much of that space are you playing with and utilizing and looking at? And that's the key piece, is work with what you have and allow yourself to explore and grow from there. It doesn't need to be like, I'm leaving the military tomorrow and I'm going to go be this crazy rebel. No, it's not about that at all. It's what does disruption look like in your current military life? Because that doesn't need to mean leaving the military. It could mean that you're going to, use your voice differently, or you're going to show up more vulnerable. That's disruptive in a lot of spaces.
It is. Vulnerability can be very disruptive. You're right, especially military. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so it's really like expanding the definition of what it means and not making anything wrong or right.
I love that. Yeah, look at the space that you're in and see what can be done there. I love that. That's so great. I want to dive into that part about the not enoughness. You talked about that too in one of your blog posts, and that's something I haven't shared with people. You can go to the TEDx Cherry Creek website, you guys, and every speaker has blogs that they wrote a blog, their journey to the stage, and their experience after leaving the stage. And I can't tell you, it has been really fun and really awesome to read the blogs of all of the incredible speakers. It's just another way of getting to know each and every one of you deeper. And in one of your blog posts, you talked about that song in The Greatest Showman. And in your talk too, I think you opened it up with this: when are you going to finally believe you are enough? Was it one of your relatives who asked you that question?
No, it was actually my coach at the time.
Oh, it was your coach. Okay,
yeah.
Your coach asked you. And that is a question that so many are carrying inside. That question of when am I going to know I'm enough, or that feeling of not feeling enough. And so I would say, what would you say is the first step towards uncovering the answer, or even better, unleashing this process of unveiling the rebel leader?
Yeah. I don't know if the journey of enoughness ever truly ends, but I will say, like, I really don't know if it will ever end. However, I think that we're created to never want enough. I would say, like, I believe that humans are seekers, and we are meant to be seekers. But the feeling of enoughness within ourselves, I think, like, one of the first steps is being aware that that's something that's probably ruminating in your mind, and is probably a root of many of what if you're someone who's constantly achieving and constantly needing to prove your value, or maybe you're a server in the world and you serve beyond your own needs and means. It's probably because there's something there where, like, you don't feel enough in yourself and you're trying to prove it through your actions in some way, shape, or form. Affirmations, I think, are like one of the best intro tools into building anything, whether it's confidence or enoughness or abundance. So I have definitely many times in my life, and still today, I do I get sticky notes and I write affirmations on them and I put them everywhere. And I just accept the fact that my apartment's going to look funny that I have sticky notes empowering me everywhere. I would say, like, you have to be more committed to your happiness than you are to looking silly or to being judged, or being one of those people, because I used to say that I don't want to be one of those hippies. And I'm totally one of those hippies now.
Good, I'm glad. Yeah, it's better to be a hippie is what I'm coming to understand.
So I would say, like, honestly, like, doing affirmations, putting up notes of, like, I am enough. I'm willing. So if a lot of people struggle with, like, well, what if I don't believe it? Well, using the term, like, I am willing to be enough is an intro into that. I am willing to be something different. I am willing to see this differently. If you can't buy into the hardcore I'm enough, then just baby steps into, like, well, are you even willing to be enough? or I'm willing to be curious. I'm willing to explore this. Like those are some easy ways into even getting into that space. But it really is a journey, as far as you can't rush. You can't, no matter how hard you try, you can't rush the becomings. And I think the more who you surround yourself with and the messaging, what you feed your mind is incredibly important when you're in this space. If you're really wanting to believe that you're enough, then being surrounded by people who are telling you you're not is going to be a really difficult journey. And so I think, and that doesn't, I'm definitely not one of those people that says, go get rid of everyone in your life.
Right.
Maybe you should if it's toxic. I don't know. But I'm never going to give that advice to someone. I think it's just more of expand, look and see where are you empowered in your life. And if it's not in very many places, then commit to growing that. Commit to finding people who will tell you how amazing you are and who will remind you on the days that you forget. Listen to inspirational and motivational podcasts. I was Tony Robbins was one of the first things that I ever found. You know, Brene Brown, like I'm trying to think of like all the people I listen to. Lisa Nichols is amazing. But get into like the space of motivational or like self-development and self-growth and start listening to positive messaging and start feeding your brain new messages, because we build neural pathways. And so, you know, this concept and this belief of I am enough, it's because we've ran it through our head a billion different times and it's built this drilled in pathway. And so the more that we can start pushing in to replace that and build new pathways, the easier that it gets. And before you know it, you'll start catching yourself and you'll actually hear the thought show up, like you telling yourself that you're not enough. And you can actually question that at some point and be like, well, is that really true? And is that something that makes me feel good? And do I want to hold on to this? You know, like what's the impact of this thought having on my life? Yeah.
I love that. I can't agree with you more when it comes to surrounding yourself with all the tools that help you reframe your mind, because you know, life, especially now, I mean, we're 2020 has been the vehicle, right, of putting people in the seat, right, to get to explore where's your head at, you know, and how do you, you know, where do you build resilience? How do you transform where you're at into something more positive, especially if you're going through challenging times? And, you know, we are all collectively going through challenging times. And so I think that's a really great tip. One of the podcasts that I really like too, that I'm sure you've heard, is Lewis Howes, I think is his last name, but he does the School of Greatness. That's a podcast to listen to. And Les Brown, I like listening to Les Brown too. He's another great motivational speaker. But yeah, there's great podcasts out there, and I love new ones. So and
they're all free.
And they're free. I know, right? All that free content is to help empower you. I mean, really, it's so, like, how fortunate are we, you know? And that's the work. So I loved in your talk this metaphor of the parts of self that are like scraps of fabric becoming a quilt, turned into something endearing, precious, warm, and protective. That, you know, I know for me and for so many, we have aspects or, you know, these instances from our past that are hard to look at. And that metaphor of looking at these hard pieces, these things that we might see as scraps or throwaway pieces, and how can we put them together and turn them into something that actually serves us, that we can see that it's protective, that it's warm, that it's precious. So would you share how Rebel leadership helped craft your quilt, and how we can apply rebel leadership to craft our own quilt?
Yeah, I think, I realized that for me, rebel leadership or just being a natural disruptor and actually owning it was the thread that allowed all my pieces to come together. It was embracing the thing I didn't want to embrace, honestly. And for me, that was disruption because I spent my entire life up until that point wanting to belong. And if you're going to disrupt spaces, you have to come to peace with not belonging a lot of the time. And that's not saying that people aren't going to support. And I have an amazing network and an amazing community and an amazing family, I'm loved and supported. And yet, when you have to step into those spaces and say those things that need to be said, sorry, my computer is doing random things right now. There's no replacement for there's nothing that's going to make it feel easier when people just aren't going to always like what you're going to do. That's the whole point of disruption, is that you're ahead of the game. You're seeing the future that others can't necessarily see. And with the unknown, we naturally fear and we naturally want to move away from that. And so when I was able to actually not make it personal, where I saw that sometimes I would come into spaces and people would seem a little tense or a little nervous. And I thought they were judging me, but honestly, it's because I was about to do some things and say some things that were going to move the conversation or move the whole journey into a new direction. And there was a natural sense that was going to be happening. And I think, when the concept of rebel leadership, I think there are natural disruptors. There are people that no matter how hard you try, it's not going to matter because you're meant to come and you're meant to bring evolution into spaces. It is your purpose. And the sooner you embrace it, the easier life is going to be. But I also believe that every one of us has a rebel in us, that we all have moments in our life where something is telling us, no, not this, or we're going down the wrong path, or this isn't the life that I choose to live. Maybe I want a different partner, or I want a different idea of a career. And there's a rebel in us trying to tell us, you can love these people all you want, but you've got to go a different direction. And that's what I want to call forward. That's the revolution, is when we are following our own intuition, our own disruption, more than we are following anything else.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that you took it there. That's so great. Yeah, that inner guidance system that we all have. And you're right, that inner guidance system is a disruptor because it is uniquely that you bring into the space. Oh, I love that. Is there, when we have these talks, we're given this 12-minute window that we try to stay into. Is there anything that didn't make it in that you really wished you were able to share?
I love this question because I was you're right. We had to really be thoughtful and concise and what do we really got to get in there? And I think after seeing some of the comments that showed up on my video, that after it got posted, I think that the opportunity I would like to take is that putting my energy into really reminding those young, brand new rebels who are really struggling with being themselves, who are struggling with standing out, with being different, with looking different, with maybe choosing to love different, and how painful that process can be. And taking the opportunity to remind them, whoever's watching, that it's going to be okay, and that this path is so worth it, and that there will be people who will embrace and accept and love and cheer and champion you on this path. And that, we will never feel comfortable in the present because we were made for the future. And ride the discomfort, just ride it, and know that it this what is it that I'm really trying to say? It's like you can struggle and struggle and struggle to be something different, but the day that you embrace and surrender to who you are is the day that freedom actually starts to truly happen.
Sonia, come on. You gotta say amen. Freedom warrior here. Yes, amen. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. And that is so true. It is, I love Brene Brown, who doesn't? But when she talks about braving the wilderness, it is about having the courage to brave daringly forward.
Yes.
And that's what it is. And that is exactly the energy that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And the energy that we all need to build up in ourselves to go for and to bring who we are authentically in the spaces, in the relationships, in the world around us. It is so needed and necessary. So I love that.
Gotta be willing to surrender, wanting life to be easy and wanting life to be fair.
Yes.
You've got to be willing to give them up.
Yes. Yes. It's sacrifice, but whenever I hear sacrifice, like people think of like negatively, like, oh, I gotta like, oh, it's free. But it's like, oh no, it's like you're giving away the things so that what you get back is just so much better. And it's worth it every single time. So I'm learning this right now, in this time right now, and it's good. I love this. What would you say was your biggest challenge in crafting this talk? Did you have any challenges trying to put this message together?
I think just getting really clear on the flow and the fluidity, and seeing some of the other speakers and like they're just like on it, and they it was inspiring for me to be like, yeah, like we've really got to put the time in and the preparation in to really like make sure we're getting a clear, easy to understand, relatable, resonant message across. And so like I think what was challenging was like I really committed to the practices. And so getting up every single time in front of like friends or family or people I know as well, and doing it over and over and over again. And every single time before I did the talk, I had to just let go. Like, I'm willing to make a fool out of myself. I'm willing to be lost. I'm willing to not be clear for the sake of the growth and for the sake of like having an awesome talk. So as much as that was a challenge, it was probably like, it was one of the greatest learnings and growing periods. And it was awesome to see myself show up in that way too.
I would so agree with that. Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
I'm curious, what was yours?
Oh gosh. For me, I struggled with, there were so many elements that I wanted to talk about in my experience of going natural. And wanting to make the message something that could translate for any person who was listening to it, because I didn't want it to be a message that was just about or just centered around Blackness. I wanted it to be relatable, because I think it's important for us to understand that in order for us to make the shift, right? Like in order for us to care about something, we have to be able to relate it to ourselves in some way. And so it's that like finding that balance with that message, along with like I could put so many experiences and so many things in there. It's just a 12-minute window.
Yeah.
Instead, I'll probably do a YouTube series at some point. You know? But yeah.
I think you did get that message across in your talk for sure, that it was translatable and actually that's what I walked away thinking was like, this is so relevant to way beyond the concept of being Black and having natural hair, for sure. Like I walked away being like, this is so relevant for anyone who is coming out of the closet in some way, shape, or form, and really embracing something about themselves.
Exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. I wanted it to be. There's so every marginalized group can understand the experience as well as, you know, any person can understand what it is, because we're all carrying something that we see as lovable, which you hit on that too, that unlovable, lovable, you know, it's again, it's this thing that we all are working on. And so, yeah, with you on that. You had this awesome question that I thought was so good. What's an area longing for disruption within you? Oh my gosh, it was so great. Can I? Yeah. Everyone, I want you to sit with that question. What is an area longing for disruption within you? Sonia, what I would ask you are there any areas that you're discovering for yourself still longing for disruption?
Yeah, I would say that, again, this is sort of in that am I enough box? Or for me, the disruption seeking never ends within myself, for sure. And I would say right now, I'm really in this space of letting go of stories or beliefs of who that are just no longer fitting. These old ideas of like what my limitations are. A lot of it built around consistency and commitment and like almost to like a full, I would say like not just soul health, mind health, and body health, that actually all of these things I can step up in a whole new way that I think I've long held belief that I couldn't. So I'm feeling like I'm currently doing like a 60-day juice cleanse right now. I'm in day 12 of it.
Oh, wow.
Like just straight, you know, juicing my own fruit and vegetable juice. I got inspired by Joe Cross, who I've watched his Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. I rewatched it and I was like, that's it, I'm doing it. The first time I did it for 30 days. This time I'm doing it for 60 like him. Nice. But also I've just been doing I've committed to a spiritual practice every single day. I will not go a day without doing my spiritual practice. I'm doing a daily meditation that's very focused around chakra alignment. I will not go a day without doing that. So just like really disrupting the ideas that that I can't be disciplined in this way and that I will always fail or fall off in some way. I'm disrupting that right now. And I think just like this phase of disruption absolutely happens like over and over and over and over again. It's almost like, you know, the shedding of the butterfly. It's like going back in the cocoon, getting all messy and gooey, and then coming back out and flying around for a while and then going back in. I think it's an endless process.
Yes. I would say that when it comes to discipline, you know, that is a huge disruptor, right? It's something that I too am learning, because there's many of those things that I've been applying for myself over the past, you know, year and a half of building in new discipline, because it's recognizing the ways of which, gosh, I don't think I really knew what discipline was before. And when you really learn what discipline is, it is self-love and self-care enacted. There's a way that I struggled so much when it came to discipline, because my mind was like, like it's just this hard thing that I'm like having to force myself to do, right? And I'm coming to understand is that the discipline that we do for ourselves is really the ways that we are honoring the love that we need to show and the care we need to show for ourselves. So I love that you said that. That's a great reminder, and something for people to really think about is, discipline. What are the ways that you are embracing discipline, knowing that that's a self-love act for yourself?
Yeah. And I used to rebel very much against discipline because I thought it was boxing me in and too much structure. And it's interesting because the more I redefine what discipline means, that it's actually a doorway to freedom. And that actually when you're living a disciplined life that's focused on achieving the dreams that you're pursuing and not giving into the day-to-day temptations, that's where you can live wild. That's where you can break free and do what's impossible and bring even bigger, massive disruption, because you're just doing it in a focused, skilled, very intentional way. And it's not just this like wild, teenage rebel energy. It's a very focused, matured, like warrior, rebel energy.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Oh gosh, this has been so great. Sonia, I don't want to take up all your time because we're running over it, but what a great conversation. Is there anything else that you wanna share, that you want to really leave with people before we close out tonight?
I think, the concept of it's all surrounding what we've talked about with being and finding your own rebel leader, but it's to like, this idea that stepping into your own and daring to live your life for you and for your own dreams and how it's selfish. And, the only true impact that we could possibly have, or like the only way that we can really give to others, is by working on ourselves first, right? Like you can't give what you yourself do not have. So if you want people to be inspired, then you need to be inspiring. If you want people to grow and to have opportunities, then you need to be growing and creating opportunities for yourself so that you can then create opportunities for others. So I think it's like lean in, dare to actually dream, and dare to live your life in a way that may feel uncomfortable at first, but challenges what's impossible. That impossible is actually going to be your daily occurrence. That miracles are not going to be these rarities, that they're actually going to be something that happens all the time for you. And it's just like, if there's anything we're learning today, it's we don't know what the future is going to hold. And this idea that we had over, living our lives for other people or living lives based on expectations, it's all disintegrating. Like now is the time. And like, what do you want? How are you going to get there? And what's stopping you from just going after it?
Beautiful. Sonia, how can people connect with you and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I have a website, www.looking2leap, the number 2, and that's easy way to get in contact with me. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, all under Looking to Leap as well. So just looking to leap in some area, you will find me, and that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Perfect. Well, it was so wonderful to chat with you. Such a great subject. I definitely am going to watch this back. Take notes for myself from Sonia Chavez, the leadership innovator. I love it. It's excellent to connect with you and to get to know you more and to have shared this experience with you. So happy holidays. And happy holidays to everyone else out there. Love to you all. May you feel loved and, share the love. Know that this, holiday season, hold your loved ones tight, cherish these moments together. It's been a rough year for so many of us. And no matter what, just know that tomorrow is a new day, a new opportunity, and a new choice that you get to bring, the best of yourself to. So there's always a brighter dawn the next day. Just keep that in mind. And 2021, I think, is going to be another full, wondrous, I think it's going to be an excellent year filled with even more lessons that are going to be wonderful. So let's move into this next year with a lot of intention on what we want to grow, what we want to do, and can we bring forward this rebel energy, this revolution, our rebel leadership, and start disrupting spaces with our authentic, genuine selves, So thanks so much, Sonia, for the reminder. And again, if you haven't watched Sonia's talk, the link is in the description area, as well as on my page. I have a few more talks coming up with some more speakers, so stay tuned to my page. I'm really excited to get to continue these talks. They're so fun. And keep your eyes glued to my page as I share some more of the incredible TED Talks from our wondrous event. So have a good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye.